What's up? This is Social Gelo with Angelo. I'm the host. I run a podcast and this YouTube channel. I'm also the head coach and Kajukenbo black belt coming out of Kajukenbo, Gelo, Japan. Also known as Level Up Gym to the local community. Title of this video, How to Handle Gym Bullies. Now, I'm going to start this. Most of this video is coming from a friend of mine, one of my sparring partners, a good friend. And I'm not going to say his name just to keep his confidentiality, because I didn't really ask him if I could start talking about his personal business on my YouTube channel. Although he does know I bring up his personal business on my YouTube channel. Out of respect for him, I'm not going to say his name. But I am going to say that I cross-train. I'm a black belt in Kajukenbo. I'm a purple belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And a friend of mine, he started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu because he really wanted to do Kajukenbo, but it wasn't in his area. So I recommended, what do you want to do? I think I mentioned this before on my another episode of I think it was on the podcast or whatever. I mentioned that a friend of mine asked me, he wanted to do martial arts. He didn't know what to start in. He liked Kajukenbo, but he didn't know where to start. And I couldn't teach him Kajukenbo because I'm not in his area. So my question to him was, well, if someone attacked you, what do you want to do? Do you want to punch him in the face, or do you want to tackle him on the ground? He's like, I want to tackle him on the ground. I want to grab him. I'm like, all right, then you probably want to start with a grappling art like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he ended up joining a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, and I also cross-trained at that school. I actually started cross-training after he started training there. I figured I'd stop by. I went to a different location. What does all this have to do with how to handle gym bullies? Well, this friend of mine ended up sending me a message. I need to talk to you. Calls me up and says, I had an awful day today. He's now almost a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he's up there. He's up there. He's still a purple belt, but he's only a few. He's already got his full stripes. About to get that brown belt. Keep going at it. You're almost there, brother. And he told me that at his school that he trains at, there's this guy who is also a higher ranking student, also a purple belt. And he tends to be very rough with everyone he rolls with. He's already injured several of his sparring partners, and he personally doesn't like getting paired up with this guy. And so my first question to him, before he even told me the story, I'm like, is he training professionally? Because this happens sometimes. I've talked to John Hackelman about one gear guys. There's some guys who only have one gear. You spar them, you say light, they hear, let's kill each other. And it's because they're professional fighters, or they're competing, or their job, maybe they're military, or maybe they're in security, maybe they're police officers. Maybe they have some sort of requirement that makes them have to be 100%. They're in a situation where they need to train that way because they're going to encounter that in their real life, either in the ring or in their profession. So I can kind of get that. That's why I asked him that question. And he said, no, the guy works like in an office. He's like an office worker of some sort. He's a businessman. All right, okay. And he's a bit of a bigger guy, but my friend is also a bigger guy. They're both, I would say he's like about 185 pounds. From the sound of it, this guy's about 185, 190. And my friend's a little bit bigger. He's about 190, 195-ish. He's a heavyweight. He's in the classifications. It sounds like this guy is about almost a middleweight heavyweight, and my friend is a heavyweight. But he's not necessarily a guy who goes hard on people. I roll with him all the time. I'm about 180, 175 pounds, depending on what I'm doing. And I've never, my friend who contacted me has never hurt me in sparring. He always likes to go light, and, he doesn't like to hurt anyone in training. That's the most thing we need to clarify before we continue this story. So he tells me that this guy that he rolls with sometimes, that he avoids rolling with, he said he said that he's been hurting a lot of students. And he rolls with women and doesn't hold back, and the women are complaining that he's going hard on them. And so the guy, from the information I gather, is being a gym bully. He's being kind of an asshole. He's using his bigger size and weight. He's kind of hurting other students, going hard on women. There's another red flag, going hard on women. So he ends up rolling with them. And today, it sounds like my friend kind of was fed up. He's had it. He didn't feel like putting up with his shenanigans today, on this day. And what happened was he's had it. And they're rolling. Mind you, jiu-jitsu has no striking. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, traditional sparring, has no striking in it. If you add any striking, it's because it's something agreed upon between you and your sparring partner. So that's the context of the conversation. He's rolling with him. My friend is in closed guard. He's got his back on the ground, and the other guy is trying to get out of closed guard. So for those of you that don't do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, my friend has his legs wrapped around the guy, and the guy's trying to break out of that to get around him. That's the object of the drill sparring situation they're in. They're doing focus sparring. And the guy proceeds to start elbowing him. Now, it's one thing to say he's grinding. I asked him too, was he grinding his elbow into you? Because that's kind of a gray rule. And he said, no, he wasn't grinding his elbow into me. He was straight out elbowing me to try to escape the position, which is, again, a red flag. You're not supposed to be striking during jiu-jitsu. So my friend asks him to please stop. Please stop elbowing me. I don't want to go that hard. I don't want to do that today. I'm tired. Please, let's just stick to the practice. Please don't elbow me. Okay, the guy says. And then proceeds to continue to elbow him. And at one point, he picks him up and he spikes him. Again, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in the practice, spiking is not allowed. And in a lot of different competitions, spiking is not allowed. Spiking is when you pick up the guy and slam him on the ground. In MMA and in a competition in that kind of scenario, it is allowed. But I will say that in some amateur settings, it's also continually not allowed. In like amateur MMA, depending on the rule set. Always check your rule set. And definitely not allowed during a non-competitive sparring drill. So he spikes him. At which point my friend, as he put it, I lost it. And he's got a blank in his memory, meaning from a psychological standpoint. And for those of you who follow my channel, you may know I have a background in psychology and a degree in psychology. So from a psychological standpoint, for my friend to say I lost it and I can't remember what happened next. And from there, I just remember that I swept him. I don't know how I swept him, but I got him off me. He had his back on the ground, and next thing you know, I have my hands around his throat, and I'm strangling him. All right, so a lot of things went really wrong here. For anybody listening at this point, if you want to press pause the video and comment whether you think my friend is in the wrong. Who's the bully? My friend or this guy? What do you think? Jump in the comments right now. I'm curious. And then press play again. Or you can finish the video too. I'm curious. Who do you think is in the wrong here? My friend starts strangling him, which, if you don't follow Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is completely not allowed. Okay, elbows is not allowed. Spiking the guy during practice is not allowed. And definitely grabbing the guy by the throat to kill you, not allowed. a lot of not allowed is happening here. So my friend starts strangling him and catches himself. And at this point, now the entire room has stopped practicing, and they're all looking at my friend and this guy. Right? My friend's a bigger guy, so they're looking at him. And he calms down. He gets up. The guy gets up. And then at this point, my friend tells him, and I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the story. I'm in Japan. I said that, right? I'm in Hyogo, Japan. So I'm in Japan. Japanese culture is all about being polite. And my friend tells him, my friend's fluent in Japanese, and he tells him, still in a polite manner, that he's not following the rules and etiquettes posted on the dojo wall of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the school they go to. They're about the same rank. They're both purple belts. So it's not like he's pooling rank. I guess my friend has a few more stripes on his belt. So my friend just tells him, You're being rough with the women. You're being rough with people who are smaller than you. I've seen you being rough with other people. I've warned you several times in our engagement that I didn't want to go that hard, and you continually did not listen to me. And that's why we ended up in this situation. You really need to go lighter during sparring. Class ends, because that was the last thing that happened in class, apparently. I was in class. And class finishes. Normally when class finishes, some people stick around for some open mat, or they go to the locker room, they change out of their gi, they put regular clothes on, and they leave. No one said anything. The head instructor didn't say anything. The other black belts didn't say anything. Everyone was just kind of awkwardly silent. The end of the class, very Japanese style, just decided not to talk about it like it didn't happen. And that guy, the guy who my friend started strangling, walked into the locker room, grabbed his stuff, and left with his gi on, meaning he was very upset. Because normally you change, but he didn't say anything. He just had a very angry look on his face, grabbed his stuff, and left. I don't know what happened after that. That's the end. Roll tape, as you say. That's the end of the story from my. One more quick piece of information before I continue with my assessment. My friend did say that several students walked up to him and thanked him for confronting that guy and telling him to go lighter, and more people came forward saying that they've said the same thing and he didn't listen to them and that they've been injured by him. So a lot of students thanked him for that. All right, let's get back to the rest of this. From my friend's point of view, that's what he told me. So my feedback, there's a lot of, how to handle gym bullies. Well, there's a lot of things here that shouldn't have happened in the first place. My best advice for anybody watching this who wants a short answer, stop right there. You're rolling, sparring, hitting, smacking, I don't know what kind of art you do, Tai Chi, whatever. You're practicing with someone and you are either, it doesn't matter what your level is. You ask the person to please go light, you don't want to go hard, the person continually does not listen to you, they continue to hurt you, even though you've asked politely to stop, you stop right there and you go to the head instructor and tell them, I don't want to work with this person. I've asked him several times. You don't have to wait. You can tell them once, because once is a mistake. Twice, 3 times, maybe this is a one-gear person that you don't feel like dealing with, or you don't feel like working with, and or they're not listening or respecting you. And it's really not your job to figure out which is which. You're just there to get better at the thing that you're practicing with. I love that line. Ramsey Dewey, check out his channel. Shout out to Ramsey Dewey. But you're just there to get better at this thing. And if someone is trying to harm you and hindering your progress in doing this thing, it's the head instructor's job to look after the students. So, I'm not blaming the head instructor in this situation, but it is your responsibility as a student to let the head instructor know that this is occurring and that you don't want to deal with it. And then from there, it's up to the head instructor to mitigate that for you, depending on your gym environment. If you have a good head instructor, it should never escalate to that point. And that's what I told my friend. Shouldn't have escalated to that point. I kept asking, where was the head instructor? He was working with his wife somewhere in the corner with some techniques. So my honest assessment, maybe my friend could have just stopped right then and there, gotten up, interrupted everybody's class, and gone to tell the head instructor. But at the same time, in my friend's situation, he's not a beginner. A purple belt at the school that he goes to is considered a higher ranking student that teaches Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So blue belts and purple belts at his school teach. They're also kind of assistant instructors, right? So now this is kind of weird. This is kind of a altercation between 2 assistant instructors. Now, from a Kajukenbo perspective, I say, hey, you gotta dish it out. From my Kajukenbo perspective, you got 2 high-ranking students, then you just dish it out and you handle it, and then you tell them, I agree, and maybe I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, go ahead, tell me why I'm wrong. In my opinion, I wouldn't have strangled him, but I would have let him have it. I would have followed the rules maybe a little more, but I definitely would have done something to express my dismay with the situation. And or depending how I feel, like especially if I'm injured, I might just stop rolling right then and there. Like, I can't roll with you. Back off. So I guess it depends how I feel too. So how to handle gym bullies. Tell the head instructor what's happening. It's a huge red flag. And in my friend's case, and I think this is a good lesson for anyone who maybe is an instructor too. Things to keep an eye out for. In my friend's case, he realized that the head instructor from that school has a notorious reputation for not supervising the classes. And there's already been several reports from this school. I have had several friends that go to that school, dislocated shoulders, sprained ankles from not being observed during leg locks. There's a lot of injuries coming from that school. So my friend looked at the program and decided to transfer schools. So again, another answer to your gym bully thing. If there's a gym bully and you've already asked politely, you told the head instructor, no one seems to be listening to you. I really do not advise, especially if you're a beginner, I don't advise you step up and start fighting the gym bully. I don't advise that. I don't. It's just gonna cause animosity between you and the gym bully and the people, and it'll make it really awkward in your entire training situation, right? There's already multiple things wrong. When gym bullies are allowed to exist inside of a gym or dojo, there's already multiple things wrong happening at that program. Because again, it's the head instructor's job to mitigate these things. So if you brought it to attention to your head instructor and it continues to happen, then your final option outside of violence, which I don't recommend. I know we practice violence, but I don't recommend violence at the place that you're training at to defend yourself against violence. It's just kind of counterproductive. And you don't want to be a part of the problem. You start thinking like that, and like they say in psychology, bullies were bullied themselves. So then you might end up becoming the gym bully, right? It's kind of a slippery slope, so I don't recommend it. But I do recommend that if you've already advised it and the environment seems hostile, get out. That's your final option. It's the best option. It's the easiest option. Sounds like you have a toxic gym or dojo environment that you need to get out of. And that's what my friend did. He decided that his main instructor was not the head instructor from that school. His main instructor was another instructor that ran another school, and he decided to transfer to that person's school full time because he would just train at this place. Even though he was signed up to that dojo, they have several dojos, he was mostly doing most of his training in the dojo anyway, and that was just like the final straw that broke the camel's back, as you will. So there it is. Did my friend handle that correctly? What do you think? In the comments. What would you do? In the comments. Thank you for checking out Social Gelo with Angelo. Podcast about martial arts and psychology. Try to post at least one thing once a week. 2 podcasts a month. I try. Catch y'all next time.